For those of you who don't know me, I am John Mandeville. I'm the Executive Director of the Memorial Economic Development Corporation. We are the co-sponsors of this workshop along with the Vermont Small Business Development Center. Some of you may be aware of the fact that we do these workshops 8 times a year. We don't do January, July, August, or December, but we do the rest of the months. And they are always on very limited topics that we can cover in a 3-hour period that are of direct interest and value to small business owners and small business managers. This particular workshop was originally scheduled in February, some of you may know, but this was a problem with a big ice storm that came through. School was closed, the roads were a mess, and we decided, you know what, we're just going to reschedule this one. So here we are today. A couple things before we get going. I'd like to introduce you to Charlie Inninger, the gentleman who checked the wind back there. Charlie is the Area Business Advisor for Lamoille County for the Vermont Small Business Development Center. And he, as you see, is not familiar with them, provide a full range of services to the business community, everything from helping with business plans, helping with financial projections, helping with distribution, marketing, permitting issues. You name it, if they can't help you, they know somebody who can. And the same can be pretty much said for my organization. The LADC is one of 12 regional development corporations in the state. And at its most basic, what our responsibility is to support in any way we can both the creation and retention of jobs within the regions that we are responsible for. What does that mean? It means I do all sorts of things, including loaning money. We have a revolving loan fund. We have marketing assistants, Alicia here, who does that, as well as a grant program for website development, which she also handles too. So anyway, lots of things that we do. Just a couple of housekeeping things. The restrooms are in the corner over there. There are donuts, muffins, coffee, both regular and decaf in the back. And if you want bottled water or something, there are machines back there that do sell bottled water. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to Alicia Clancy. She will be the facilitator for today's workshop, and I'll let her talk about herself.
Thank you, John. Good morning. Thanks for coming. I see some familiar faces, lots of new faces, so welcome. And thanks for coming back after having to reschedule this event. So today we're going to learn about why and how to grow your business with email. And I just put a little inspirational quote up there because it sort of seemed to tell the story of what we wanted to do today. So everything I say today is maybe true. There's always, take everything with a grain of salt, so I'll give you some rules, but feel free to break the rules. Truth is elusive. No one knows the whole truth about anything. Marketing is storytelling, and the story of your product is built into your product. And the ad might be part of it, the copy might be part of it, but mostly your product and your service and your people are all part of the story. So I want to keep that in mind while I'm telling you all these things about content, because you want to think about what your story is. And before we go on, the power of email marketing is really in storytelling, and I want to try to excite you about all the possibilities of what this channel has to offer. And we're going to do a broad overview of marketing, email marketing in general, and then we're going to get down to what I like to call the brass tacks, so that you leave with some concrete information. That's kind of my own personal, when I come to a workshop, I want to leave with something that I can go home and do. And I really hope that you'll have an action plan when you leave so that you can get started. And let's set the stage for it now and show you some of the reasons for email marketing. It's really the workhorse of your digital marketing tools. You've got your website, which is very important. It's not as if it's not important, but people don't wake up in the morning and say, I think I'm going to go, to so-and-so's website. They just don't, but they do check their email. Social media, they do check, but at the same time, unless that social media is asking them to do something, they're staying on that social media. So when you're trying to create awareness for your business, acquire new customers, retain customers that you currently have, and convert those people into sales, email can help do all of that. So it might be surprising to find that the website isn't really the workhorse. Especially since I'm a web designer, you might think that that's really the be-all and end-all. And it is very important, but really email is the workhorse. And you'll find out soon why social media isn't it either, okay? Can you go to the next slide? So here is some research done by Gigamon Research, and what they found was email, this is all for email, okay? So the top line is awareness, then acquisition, conversion, and retention. And this is comparing it to other marketing tools like social media and websites and press releases and things like that. And what you'll find is it's incredibly effective at retaining your current customers. So if you've got an existing business and you already have customers that you're looking to come back and have more products sold to, email is by and large the best way to keep in contact with your customers. It is also very effective at converting to a sale. People check their email. Despite the odd complaints about spam, we all get a lot of it, right? But most of us check our email often, at least once a day, sometimes 9 times a day or more, believe it or not. And it's a small point, but actually it's quite significant because when someone logs into Facebook, they only see what is up there at the moment. So if you were trying to do something on Facebook or Twitter, and some kind of advertising, some kind of promotion, that Twitter tweet that you put up there, it's only going to be on there for like an hour, and then it's going to get buried. Your email that you send, even if somebody comes back from a week-long vacation, it's still there. They at least have to delete it, right? So it's there. There's the chance that your email is not going to get opened, but there is something that they're going to see. They're going to see the from field, they're going to see the subject line, and they're going to see what we call the pre-header. So it doesn't really even have to get opened for it to have some effect. And let's go to the next slide. Social media is great. Okay. Email conversion. My suggestion is use social media to drive traffic to your email sign-up form. So everything you do or most everything you do on social media should try to be converting to an email lead. And that's where you can actually sell them something. Okay. We'll go through all this more. Email conversions are 40 times that of Facebook. Think about that, 40 times. And Facebook's not even free anymore. If you want to send a post to your fans on Facebook, it costs at least $30, depending on how many fans. It used to be free, but it's not free anymore. Next bullet point. So 91% of the people check their email every day, and email gets delivered 90% of the time. That's pretty good, as opposed to Facebook. Even though your email is getting delivered, we all know that delivering is not enough. Your email service provider will be able to give you statistics about what emails were delivered opened, clicked, and shared on, and we're going to go over that too. Well, next slide. So I hope you're a little bit excited about email. I know it's not like talking about the March Madness or anything. Next slide. Yeah, there we go. This year, there are 207 million smartphone readers. That's 100 million more than 2 years ago. Think about that for just a second. 100, like it's doubled in 2 years. So what does that mean? That means that everybody's got a smartphone. Next bullet. And half of all emails are opened on a smartphone. So what that means is people are lying in bed reading your email. They're drinking their coffee, they're eating their lunch. They are reading their email all the time. But it also means that it needs to look good on a phone. Okay. But this is incredible growth. I mean, you are like right at the beginning of what is, I think, as a marketer, really exciting to have that kind of growth. I mean, it's basically like straight up. Okay. No. Did you miss? Oh, yeah, this one. So we have a huge audience, basically, and you found out where they're spending their time. Now you need to get their attention, and the number one app on a smartphone is email. So this is what people are doing. Okay. They're also doing other stuff, but they don't forget to check their email. So for this year, we definitely want to focus on mobile. We want to make things personal, and we'll talk about that. And then we also, this smarter, disruptive, noisier thing. I'm going to give you some guidelines, but then again, feel free to break them because sometimes that's how you get noticed. And we'll show you some of those things too. All right, so today's agenda. That was just a little brief introduction about why email is so important. Any questions about like whether or not email is worthwhile? I mean, have I sold you? I know you're here. Any questions about what I said? No. Okay. So we're going to look at email service providers and what they are and why do I need one for email marketing? Why don't I just use the Google account or whatever that I have? We're going to go over creating a list of contacts and growing a healthy list and what a healthy list is. And then we're going to create email campaigns, or we're going to talk about creating email campaigns that look good on the phone, that are converting your emails to sales. That's when I say converting, you're either getting a lead or you're getting an actual sale, depending on whether you have e-commerce or you're just looking to give somebody a quote. A lot of times a quote is that. And then we're also going to go through how to get your email open and how to stand out from the crowd, how to track your results. If you're not measuring, you're not testing. And if you're not testing, you're not marketing. You're halfway marketing. And then how to put it all together. So here, excuse me if your email is up there, but here's an email I received from someone who's not using an email service provider. And this was the header before the email even started. Those are email addresses, right? So this is what you don't want to do. Nobody really does this anymore, but some people do it. And there's a lot of reasons why you wouldn't want to do that. If you want to send email to a large number of people, there's correct and incorrect way of doing so. Without an email service provider, you're going to get something like this, because there's really no other way of hosting all of your contacts, which is what an email service provider will do. The correct way of sending email to a group of more than 10 people, so feel free to send something like this to your friends if that's what you want to do. But for business, you really shouldn't do this. You want to use an email service provider. You're going to pay a fee to them for their role in hosting your email addresses and sending your email. Next. Okay. So here's a few there's a lot of them, but here's a few email service providers. Constant Contact, you maybe have heard of. It was probably, I think, one of the first email service providers out there. iContact, very similar, a little younger. And MailChimp, which is even younger. They generally do the same thing. They store your contacts and your sent emails. They track your email campaigns and your statistics. And they'll tell you which contacts received, opened, and clicked on your links in your email, and which email addresses were not deliverable. Those are called bounces. The cost of these services is generally very cheap. We're going to go over the cost of them in a second, but it's an inexpensive method of reaching your audience. It's the least expensive marketing tool out there. So if we go to the first service provider, Constant Contact, I just took this off their website so you could have an idea of how much it might cost. When you're starting off, the cost is $15 a month, and you can send as often as you like, so they have different rules. No matter how many contacts are on your send and tracked, here it is, $15. So you can have up to 500 contacts for $15 a month, and you can send an email every day to them if you wanted for the same price here. Constant Contact, because it's been around a long time, it has a strong following. It also is a little bit older, so a little bit clunkier in my opinion. It works fine, but some of the newer ones tend to be, I think, a little more streamlined and a little, like they saw what Constant Contact wasn't doing and they tried to do that. But it's a pretty good price. So the next one is iContact, and it is $14 a month, pretty almost the same. When you're starting off, their basic plan includes sending up to 6 times your subscriber limit. So if for $14 a month you have 500 contacts, you can't send them one every day. You can send 6 in a month for that price, and that's how they do their calculation. And they also, if you have, we're going to talk about this when we build our lists, but you might have more than one list. You know, we've got a list of realtors and a list of farmers, and they sometimes will send to both of them, and sometimes we'll just send to the realtors. If you've got the same person on both lists in iContact, it would count twice. In Constant Contact, only counts once. So there's just a few things to consider there. And then third, just the price so that you can see, is MailChimp. That's okay. And with MailChimp, you can send 12,000 emails per month for free. So you might, I think a lot of you might be starting with them. But I recommend the $10 per month plan because it allows for autoresponders, which we'll talk about soon, but basically it's a series of emails that come automatically after somebody signs up. And with the free plan, you get one, just the welcome to our list. My company's 3W Promotions, I don't sell. I'm not an email service provider, so I don't have a preference of who you use. If you wanted to talk to me at some other time, I could help you with any of all 3 of these I use. There's also some other ones, service providers like Emma. Emma is a really nice new one. She's, I think, $45 a month. Really nice email service provider, though. Really helpful, like a full service kind of concierge. AWeber is a really excellent long-time service provider who I don't have a lot of experience helping you with, but they are very integrated with a lot of e-commerce stores, and they do a really good job at what we call marketing automation, which we'll get into later, but segmenting your list. Just an example, if you ever, let's just say you contributed to a political campaign. And you would like, from then on, to be treated as somebody who contributed. So you might get put into a funnel where these are people who already contributed. You don't want to be talked at. You want to be talked differently if you've bought a product or you've done something. And so marketing automation is really, it's advanced, but it's also a really nice touch if you have a funnel and you're putting people in different segments of your list. So Aweber is very good for complicated e-commerce. All right, so before I go on, I just want to make sure people understand what an email service provider is. And if you have any questions, feel free at any time to raise your hand, but we understand basically what that is, right? Okay. So we're going to go on to growing your list, and who am I going to send emails to? Having access to a database of subscribers who willingly joined your list, okay? So they gave you their email address for, we'll talk about lots of reasons somebody might give you their email. It gives you a way to send traffic to your website. Now, your website is important, but nobody's going to go there all on their own volition, pretty much. You have to tell people to do it. So our list is going to send people to our website to buy our products or engage in our services. And having a healthy list will provide you with people that you can contact directly whenever you have an announcement to make. You might have an event coming up, and we'll talk about these kind of things too. But our customers are our most important asset. So when you have a business, if you were to sell a business that you own, generally one of your most valuable assets is your customer list. But what they're also going to want to know is, have you nurtured your customers? Have you taken care of them? Do you know who they are? Do you keep track of them? Do you survey them? Do they know about you on a regular basis? And the more valuable, the more nurtured your customer list is, the more valuable your business is. And the reason for that is because your customers are your biggest, they're going to be 80% of your sales. They're also going to be your sales force with their word of mouth. So your current customers and your past customers, I like to, especially people starting with email marketing, I don't like to go back more than a year, maybe a year and a half with your customers. Email addresses get old pretty quick, and they'll be like, oh yeah, I've been in business for 10 years. You don't want to go to a 10-year-old email list or list of customers. You really want to stay kind of current. And what email is going to do is going to help you keep in touch with them and nurture them. It's also, I've said it many times, but it's really cost-effective way of contacting your customers all the time and acquiring new customers. It's the best way, really, of keeping in touch. So, next slide. What we're talking about mostly with our digital marketing tools, right? We've got email, we've got social media, and we've got our website. And just what we're talking about today, there's other tangential ones, but those are the three that we were talking about here. And what we call it is engagement marketing, and sometimes we call it push marketing, right? So your website is kind of like sitting there like your retail store would be, just kind of out there on the internet. And engagement marketing is the social media and the email that's going to push information out there to get them to come to your website. Makes sense, right? And one of the ways that you can really be successful with this kind of marketing these days, digital marketing, is to, one, give them a wow experience as a business. Be receptive to their needs. When they order something, sometimes you might want to throw in something for free. You might want to give them free shipping. Give them some kind of wow experience so they can talk about your business. And these days, a lot of things are given away for free. I mean, it used to be less popular, but now with so many things free on the internet, people expect things for free. You also want to entice them to stay in touch with you so that you can stay connected to them. And we're going to talk about different incentives and coupons and things like that that will help them become engaged with what your marketing message is. And through these different social media aspects and email marketing, we're going to keep them interested and help them find value in staying connected. So you always have to think about the value and their experience when you're sending things out. So we want to make sure that we don't send things too often and bother them. You know, there's very sensitive, especially when you're sending to all of your customers. You want to make sure that you don't upset all of your customers. And we're going to try to make your business so interesting and provide so much value that people want to stay connected to you and tell other people about you. Okay. Next. So I said this before, but we're going to be using social media to drive traffic to the website and have them sign up for your email list. Okay. We might be using social media to drive traffic to the website for something else, but we don't want to forget to have them sign up for your email list. In your email service providers, a lot of them will allow you to connect your Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn accounts to your email service provider account. So when you send an email, it will automatically post to your social media. And you'll see that in the send part of it, where it says connect to Facebook, and then there's a little process. But once you have it connected, set it up at the beginning, there's no more setup. You just decide whether or not it should go to Facebook or not. So I highly recommend using that connection. So on our website, on every page, either the sidebar, the footer, the header, we're going to have an easy-to-fill-out sign-up form for your email list. And we might have logos or statements. A statement would be like, we'll never share or sell your email address. Logos such as these, Trusted Store, Better Business Bureau. The thing about email is people like to protect it. It's like, it's their own thing. You know, they have to deal with it every day. So they don't want to necessarily give it out. They have to have a good reason to give out their email address. So the more you can say that's going to alleviate their fears and reduce the friction that they're feeling immediately about giving you their email address. They don't want to be bombarded, but if they know that they're going to get some value out of it, they're much more likely, and they feel secure about it, they're much more likely to want to give it to you. This one in particular has a refer a friend and get $10 off. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. Next one. Next slide. Okay. So this is another way to use a sign-up form. So we call these bridges. It's an addition to. It's like a fancy email sign-up form. So you might have one that's kind of low-key and on your footer or on your header or something like that. But then you might want to have one that's kind of intrusive and that is triggered by a different action. So I've got some that are triggered by when you get to the bottom of the page, a pop-up box will come up. And so you've scrolled all the way to the bottom and then pop-up sign up. So you figure, okay, if they've read all this far, it's okay to ask for their email. Another trigger might be when they leave that page or if they've been on the page for 30 seconds or something. So you might have a different form fly in. And you can do all sorts of testing, but these pop-up and bridge kind of sign-up forms are very effective. They're kind of annoying too, yeah.
And are these things that you would coordinate with your provider?
This would be your webmaster who would do this when we call it bridges. Now, your provider will almost always have a pop-up box option, and so sometimes the email service provider can do it. But when you're in your account that you create with your email service provider, there's going to be a section called Signup Forms, and that's what we're talking about here. The Signup Form is code that you take and you put on your website, and it can have what we call static, which is just a box that's always there, or then the other option is pop-up. And then some of them will have different triggers for when it will pop up. So I like to do it once. So I don't want to be obnoxious about it. I don't want to have a pop-up on every page. I like the one that pops up when you're at the bottom, because, well, you're done. You know, you might as well have something else. But then once they've closed that, if they didn't give it to me, that form is already on the footer, so I don't make it pop up again. I think that's annoying. But this kind of advanced tool you would need your webmaster for, or somebody who knew something about your website. All right, so the next slide. So we're going to give them. What? Yeah. So this particular one that I had an image of is a plugin called Bloom. It's by Elegant Themes. They do an excellent job with this sign-up form, and it's really easy to integrate with Constant Contact and MailChimp, and they have all of them. It'll give you instructions on how to go about it. And once you have it set up once, then you don't need your webmaster anymore. I mean, you could go in and make changes to it when it, the interval or what page, that kind of thing. It's just it's that same thing with your social media. Once you have it connected, you just choose whether or not to use it or not. This one called Bloom here by Elegant Themes is a WordPress plugin, but there's all sorts of other ways to do pop-ups with JavaScripts and stuff. Any other questions? Okay. Yeah, I really like that Bloom plugin. It's got a lot of options on it. So we're growing our list, right? That's the topic that we're on at the moment, and we want to give them reasons to join. Okay, so this is a big part of maybe why you're here. Like, why would anyone want to be on my list? So you might have a complicated product, so you might need to provide ongoing education. In my field, since I do web design and search engine optimizing and email marketing, constantly there's always questions, right? So it's easy for me to do ongoing education. Maybe Kale Chips isn't that kind of thing. The next one, email subscriber only offers. Okay, so sort of like the point, right, on the radio station. If you sign up for our email list, only you will know about, when concert tickets go on sale or something like that. So we're going to tell you first, or we're going to give you subscriber-only offers. You might offer, Barry and I were talking about this, ebooks, white papers, and guides. So if, let's say you were a consultant, you don't want to, give everything away, but you might want to give a little bit away. And so you might create a research paper or a short little book and give that away if they give you your email address, their email address. Now, a lot of people are like, yeah, well, that's not me. But if you think about it, we did this at our web design class once. There were like 8 students there, and none of them said, well, I'm not a writer. But we came up, all 8 of them, we came up with an ebook for their site. 2 of them were dog breeders, and I said, okay, well, how about like a little PDF on how to train your puppy, or how to pick out a dog for you. So there's, even though you think that your business is not necessarily going to work for any of this stuff, you have to think about it in terms of what your customers and your clients need. Okay, so I got this new puppy. I need to know what to do with it. It won't be quiet when I put it in the crate. Whatever it is. So, these kind of white papers, they might be just browsing your website and see cute puppy pictures and then say, oh yeah, how do I get it to come when I call, or whatever. So these kind of things, some people are very effective at even selling ebooks and white papers, but it's a very effective way of getting your growing your list. And the next one would be special offers, only for your email list. And then all the time you want to remember what you're selling. What is your unique selling proposition? What is special about you in particular? And what problem are you solving for your customers? And I say, don't send them cat videos, right? Unless you're selling cats. But one of the biggest reasons that people will unsubscribe from your list is you're sending them irrelevant content, okay? So they've signed up for your list. They want to know about whatever it is that you do, search engine optimizing. But if I start sending them stuff that's completely unrelated, then I'm wasting their time. And you don't want to do that. All right, so we're going to keep growing our list with incentives. Okay, so here is one that I thought was appropriate. Sign up for access to free WordPress tips and resources. Sign up for our newsletter and get access to free downloads as well as daily WordPress tips, tricks, and resources. Get me some free stuff. Everybody loves free stuff, believe it or not. You'd think that wouldn't really work, but it actually does. And you can play around with what it's going to say, and this is called a call to action, and your call to action button can change. But you'd be surprised at what the word free will do, and we're going to go through a list of some of the words that are very effective in addition to free. So this type of email, we call it an opt-in form. Does anyone not know what opt-in means? Opt-in means I am deciding to be on your list. And then there's also what we call a double opt-in, which in that case, they just put their email address. A double opt-in would mean then they get an email and they have to click and confirm it. Okay, so that is required on some email service providers, and I think Constant Contact is one of them. I would have to look. So in other words, somebody signs up on your website, that they're not done. They're not on your list. Then they get an email, and they have to click to confirm it. That's called double opt-in. And I know I've left email service providers because they require double opt-in, because I think if I signed up, that's good enough. They say that by the double opt-in part, what you've done is you've created a very healthy list. You know that that email works, and you know that they really want to be on your list. And I agree, it's really nice to have a nice, clean, healthy list, but at the same time, it's onerous, I think.
Are there any gray listing issues where it can be flagged as related to this double opt-in or not double opt-in?
Yes, yes. Well, so Constant Contact, for one, on the email sign-up form requires double opt-in. Others, like iContact, does not, and MailChimp, I'm not remembering at the moment, but if you try to upload a whole bunch of email lists, which you can do, you can just create like a spreadsheet and upload a whole 200 emails to your list. A lot of times they will decide that was spam and they won't accept them, and they'll just reject the whole bunch of them. On any of them, if you are in your account list aspect where your list is, you can always enter one at a time an email address as the administrator, and they'll all take that without double opt-in. And we're going to talk a little bit about that, but this slide is about a loyalty program. Now, one of the workshops that John did, the entire workshop was on loyalty program. So it's an incredibly effective marketing tool, is a loyalty program. And doing it with email marketing is just very effective. So this is Vistaprint, which you've maybe heard of. They're printing business cards and brochures and photographs and things like that. They're offering $10 off to you if you refer a friend to them. So your friend's going to get $10 off, and you're going to get $10 off on your next order. And some loyalty programs work in different ways. I mean, you might refer 10 friends and get $100 off. But if you read the details, which is on the next slide, they're very specific about what they offer. And I don't think I mentioned, I'll put these slides, I'll send these slides all to you after the class. I should have done it yesterday, but, and you can read some of the details here. But what they're saying is that you can only use one $10 coupon per order. So you couldn't refer 10 friends and get $100 off, although I think, why not? Yeah?
Is the loyalty program email within the contact, or is it a separate plugin?
Okay, that's a very good question. So really, all it is you setting it up. And I said the devil's in the details is you have to decide what your loyalty program is going to be. You can, I wouldn't make it limited to just one. I mean, if I've got a customer that wants to sell my product to 10 people, why not? More the merrier. So I would let them accumulate their points. Why not? Some of them do it in points. I mean, we've got e-commerce stores, like some of these people are on Shopify. Shopify will do, I think, what they call points. So so some of your e-commerce stores will have a loyalty program kind of built in. But you can create one. Your webmaster can create one. You just have to decide as a business owner what you want it to be.
But it's not created in constant contact. It's created outside of the...
Right. It's just you have to decide how it would work. And make sure you think of all the steps involved and kind of write it all out. But the loyalty program is really helpful. And it's a way of getting your message shared by having your customers, who are your best salespeople. It's sort of the word of mouth aspect.
So just so I'm clear on that particular program.
Yeah.
This is the slide previous to this was an email that was sent to a customer list.
Yeah, go back. Okay.
That's an email that was sent, or is that a pop-up on your website?
No, this is actually an email that I send to my customers, okay? And I'm asking them to share their friend's email. So their friend will get an email. When they fill this form out, their friend will get an email that says, if you use Vistaprint, you'll get $10 off, and I will too. That's what the friend sees. And the friend will have a coupon. And then when the friend actually makes a purchase, then I get my coupon, not until. And so I'll get mine in the mail. So if you think about it, it's a sort of marketing automation. It's a sort of a back and forth set of forms that goes. Yes, Jeff.
So is that created through the email provider, or this is totally separate? What is this built in?
Well, I don't know what Vistaprint built it in, but you would just build it yourself. I mean, you would just decide.
Nothing to do with the constant contact.
Any of them could do it. And if you've got a store, a lot of times the store has already built it for you, like an e-commerce. like Shopify has it built in, 3D Cart has it built in, Cart Manager, they've already built it. But in terms of building it, it's really not that complicated. If you told your webmaster, or if you are your webmaster, if you just decided what it was that you wanted to happen, then you'd say, okay, well, they need this form, and then they need this form. And it's just sort of a process of back and forth automatic emails. But definitely make sure you think about all the steps involved, because there will be people that will find any loopholes if you have any. Any more questions about loyalty? It's very effective. No. Okay. So here's another, we're talking about growing our list, right? Don't want to forget that. It's, this is what we call a two-step lead magnet. Without kind of cluttering it up, whatever it is that you're working on, you might just have a button that says, click here, this kind of thing. I want the guide. So here it is. Would you like a free guide to building a lead magnet? This guide will teach you everything you need to know about creating a lead magnet. I want the guide. So then when you get to that page, then you give them your email address and name. So the two-step one it just takes them to a form. It's not really all that different, except that the benefits are that you're only showing the form when the user has expressed interest, and you're not bombarding them with pop-ups and sign-up forms. And you're also ensured that it's highly relevant to the current piece of contact. So it's very much like the other one where the form was right there, but this can be a little bit less intrusive. Yes?
Would that be something you might use on social media?
Yeah, to drive them to a form. Mm-hmm.
So if they're on a page where you're giving information about one thing, and then you could put a lead guide, I want more information about this. That would be one place you could put it, and then on the website, if you have another page talking about something else, you could put the same form but a different lead at the bottom. I want more information about this. So you could,
if it was a different topic.
a different topic.
Yeah.
So you could spread them out.
You could talk about more topics that way, maybe. Yeah.
And it wouldn't be as intrusive.
Yes, it's basically the reason you do this is to keep the form off the page to be less intrusive. It's really minimally different. And the next slide is something obvious that I'm sure you've all used, are coupons and promotions on your website, and you can offer them through email. Coupons are almost so ubiquitous these days that if you don't have one, you kind of feel like, oh, I better get my coupon before I check out, so they're kind of annoying. But you might have a page on your website where you have different coupons so that when people search for coupons, they might find them. But this is handled through your e-commerce. So if you were in Shopify, you would go and you would create a coupon and get the code, and you would have a start date, an end date, you would describe it, then you have the little code, and then you send out the code. So this works with e-commerce usually. It's not that you don't have to have e-commerce. I mean, I could use it. I sell services, right? I do have some products, but I sell services mostly. So I could say, May special, enter May special here or something. I could create one that didn't really mean anything, that wasn't connected to a shopping cart. You can still use coupons and promotions without doing e-commerce. How many of you are more like have products to sell? And how many have services? Anything else? Products, services? Yeah, okay. So services you kind of handle like a little bit differently. And they're not necessarily a code, but you might say something like, a free quote or free estimate or a sample, that kind of thing. All right, next one. All right, so this one might take a little bit of time. This is called a squeeze page, okay? And I don't know if you've ever, like, a lot of times, they're also called landing pages, which maybe you've heard of, but a squeeze page is slightly different than a landing page. So if you're on social media and you read something and then it tries to get you to go somewhere else and you're redirected to a website, you'll sometimes be on a website and there's no what we call navigation. There's no home page button. There's no like other things. The only thing there is this, oh, it doesn't show up very good, but this is a form right here. Sign up for my list, okay? And the squeeze page is that they have a domain name, which is, you know, your website name. His name's silentjim.com. If you go to silentjim.com, this is the home page, okay? There are no other pages on the website. So sometimes you might try to get around something by, you'll see it'll say, you know, marchmadness.com/special offer. And then you'll go, oh, I just want to go to the home page. And so you'll just take everything off and you'll go to .com. And you try to get away from their little, you know, little box that they've put you in. But if you have a domain name with only one thing on that domain name, and it's a sign-up form, that's called a squeeze page. There's nowhere else to go. Once you sign up, then there's all sorts of, then it kind of, the world opens up to you. But it's very effective by having a domain name with a one page, basically it's a one-page website with an email sign-up form. And if whatever it is that you have, that your offer is enticing enough, you will get lots of leads this way. You also might frustrate people because they're like, I don't want to, I just want to see the stuff. I don't want to give my email address, but they can't. There's nothing else to see. As opposed to a landing page, which, so like if you're on Google and you click on an ad, for instance, that will always go directly to a page for whatever the ad was. So one of my clients is a wood floor manufacturing. We've got AdWords, so ash flooring, right? If you click on the ash flooring ad, you'll go to the ash flooring landing page, right? And on that page, you can go anywhere else on the website because it's all, you're basically just inside the website. Squeeze page is different. There's nothing else to do. Any questions? Very effective.
So once they give their email address, where would they go?
They go to a different website.
A whole different website.
Yep, jimcochran.com. This guy wrote a really great book. It's old now. It's probably, do you remember how old that book is? It's like
2012, 2011.
Okay, I was thinking 28, but it's called 101 Free Marketing Ideas or 101 Free Marketing something by Jim Cochran, and I recommend it. He talks about email marketing a lot. He will get you way more excited about it than I do, unfortunately, because he's so successful. If you read some of this, he's got 14,000 subscribers, or 125,000, I don't know, on his Facebook group. But anyhow, he talks about email marketing a lot in the 101 Free Marketing Ideas. I do recommend his book. And his squeeze pages, he has lots of different ones. All right, so we're getting close to break time. So we're talking about growing our list, and so far everything I've talked about has been digital, online, growing your list. Different ways for promotion, different ways for incentives, different ways of using social media and that kind of thing, but really offline marketing and word of mouth marketing, in addition to your loyalty program, is probably the most effective. So here I am standing up here, webmaster, all this stuff, but the real world is really where things happen, okay? And you want to be out there selling your business just like anything else. So as a marketing consultant, you don't want to forget that your customers probably got to you from another customer or from you, okay? So even though this stuff is all great, you still need to kind of, what I say, press the flesh, get to know, your chamber mixers and all of those kind of things. And at them, you want to collect your business cards and ask if they would like to be on your mailing list, and make sure that you go back to the office and put them in. So what we're going to do is we're going to spend a little time so that each of us here can do a little bit of networking, and hopefully you've all brought a stack of business cards. If you haven't, you could just use paper and pencil. And what I'd like to do is go around the room. Before we break, I'd like you to each just introduce yourself with your name and your business name and what the business does. And then after we break, I want you to put one of these cups in front of each of you, and everyone can walk around and put their business card in your cup, and that will be your start of your email list, okay? And so put your business card in everybody's cup, and go back and start your email list. Now, I'll start with myself. My name's Elisa Clancy. My business is 3W Promotions, and we do web design, search engine optimizing, and full-service online marketing.
Caitlin, I'm a student at Business Administration.
Here?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm Haley, and I'm a student. Same programs. Hi, I'm Chris. I have a massage and colon hydrotherapy practice in Burlington.
Hi, I'm Julie. I'm an employee of Gail Bourne, Wheelhouse Designs. And I'm Gail. That's the boss. Not what we saw.
My name is Chris D'Amato. I'm the Assistant Director of Email Tech. And I'm also the Adult Ed Coordinator, where we offer training for anybody in a lot of different types of training, from motorcycle maintenance to L&A training.
Hi, I'm Janice Blair, and I own Vermont Kale Chips, healthy tips for healthy bodies.
Barry Morankin, and continuing group. My business is consulting, advising, and coaching with business owners and executives.
I'm Kathleen Brandon-Kia. I own Healing Earth Vermont Herbals. It's a small herbal skincare business. Salves, lip balms, massage oils, bug repellent.
My name is Alexis Manchester. I'm a student at the business program.
My name's Andy Dubeck. I have a new business that launches in September. I'm a little tech-lipped about it, but it's a promotional product for the restaurant business.
My name is Steve Borson. I have a small manufacturing company. We make paddles for stand-up paddlers. The name of the company is O'Neill Paddles, LLC.
I'm Michelle Boyden. I'm with Simpson Sales Unlimited. We sell services in garage doors and openers.
My name is Dennis Shanley. Company is Cottage Industries Limited. And we do technical consulting work with businesses regarding computers, networks, and also general management consulting for the technical side.
My name is Kasaya, and I'm a student in the business program.
I'm Mallory Keller. I'm the business administration teacher here at Green Mountain Tech Center.
I'm Derek Richardson, and I have a business, DR Property Maintenance and Lawn Care. We do lawn care and anything that your house needs in maintenance.
I'm Justin Laundry. I'm from the business administration program.
Jeff Nicholson, have a marketing business in Stowe, Freely Creative, which is also web sticker. We mostly focus on stickers, decals, and labels, and promotional items.
I'm Kristen Conant. I also work with Jeff at Web Sticker. We're a promotional sticker marketing company.
My name is Rob Slingmaker. I own a business called Vasa, incorporated over in Essex Junction. And we've been in business since 1988. We make sport-specific training equipment, fitness, exercise equipment.
Karen Bisbee, and I'm
Josh McGriffiths from Tech. We do commercial kitchen ventilation, industrial ventilation, and custom sheet metal work.
Bottom line, work with Josh, as he said.
Hi, I'm Kellen. I'm here actually for two businesses today. I work for the Harvard Vermont Chamber of Commerce, and we promote businesses in Hardwick, Cabot, Greensboro, and a surrounding towns there. And I'm also starting my own business. You may or may not have heard of it. It's Little Road. They are based out of California, and I'm going to be an independent fashion consultant with them. So, not sure how much the email will work for this, but I'm still going to use some of it.
I'm Linda Callan. I own Vermont Peony Farm. I grow specialty peonies and other flowers myself as florist, and also to DIY brides.
My name is Meredith Skelton. I have a small bed and breakfast called Hobble Inn in the village of Stowe. And my next big project is to build a condo over the garage of my 150-year-old house to loan out at no charge to veterans, active duty service people, and reservists as just a little thank you vacation spot. Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to take a break for 15 minutes. All right, we're going to get going again. So our last segment was on growing your list, and we're just going to do a little recap and see if there's any other growing your list questions before we get on to the next topic. So you're going to start with your current customers. You're going to add a sign-up form to your website in various locations, like the footer would be on every page, perhaps. You're going to use social media to engage people and keep them connected with your email sign-up form and give them a reason or an incentive to join your list. You might decide to advertise to a squeeze page, and we're going to do some more offline marketing like we just did. So the next thing we want to do is create the actual emails. All these service providers call them campaigns. So that's what we're going to call them. Creating content. So the overall picture of your digital marketing is content marketing. You have to have something to say, whether it's pictures or words. There's all sorts of things you can do with your content. You could create great content. You might have a book you wrote and take pieces of it and do different things with it. So we can do email marketing with it, but that doesn't have to be the only thing you do with it. You might have a press release. You might blog with it. You might add it to your website or your social media, or even create an event out of it. And so the point being that you can repurpose your message or spread it out in many different ways, the same message. So what do I write about? One more. We're going to turn questions into answers. So one of my clients has a kind of complicated product, and they are constantly bombarded by questions. So a lot of your frequently asked questions are a good place to start, where she's always answering her clients' questions. I said, you got to put that on the website. You might not have a complicated product. You might have a cabin that you rent out or something like that, and people will have questions about what's there to do in the area. So it doesn't have to be complicated, but complicated is a good way of starting to think about it, and then think about all the different questions that you hear from your customers and format that turn it around into information that you're going to send out. So images are content too. People process 90% of their information through images. Did you get that? 90%. So we're basically just scanning when we look. And so you're probably not reading any of this stuff because there's no pictures, right? You just have to listen to me. But if you can have a picture, it's almost always a better way to go. And I'm going to encourage you to have at least one picture in every email, and I'll show you why. What do we write about? Okay, so this I'm going to have to come over here because we didn't know, you're fine there. We didn't plan on this being over here, but I wanted to show you some examples of some things that were written about. So tip sheets and a checklist. Okay, so you're not seeing all of it, but here's an example of tip sheet or checklist. So when we're talking about answering people's questions, right? Here's an email which is how to inspect a used item. And this is like a second-hand sales site, sort of like eBay, a little bit without the bidding. But anyhow, they're telling you kind of how to use their site. And I just like the way that this was very easy to read. You actually don't find out the information until you click on that, and then you have to go to the sign-up form. So it's enticing. We also have an ebook. Here's an ebook.
Question?
Yeah.
When you click to go to another site like that, is there a rule that you always bring them back to where they came from, or do you sometimes let them go on from there to other things?
Well, they would probably be coming from your email. No?
Yeah.
So I don't bring them back to the email.
Okay. Maybe it's more like on a web page.
Okay, on a web page.
If on the web page, it's like, click here to read a tip site.
Yeah. Oh, do I bring them back? Okay, so that's a good question. So generally, if you're going to send somebody off of your website, you would open a new window if it's not on your website. But if you're sending them to a different page on your website, then you don't need to open a new window or a new tab. It's just, you're just on the website, as long as there's still navigation. If you're going to a page that has no other navigation, then I would open a new page. Does that answer your question? Yeah. So here's, we're on the topic of what do I write about. Okay, so I'm showing you some examples of emails that we've gotten. This one is a digital document. So here's, right away at the top of it, they give you the call to action, right, with a little image. And here it's saying, download our latest ebook, another link to the same thing. So here, 3 times they've asked me to download that ebook. All right, what else do we write about? We can write about, give them a teaser only. Okay, here's one for a teaser only. Actually, Emma does a really good job with this. Okay, so here's from Shopify. Here is just what we call a teaser. It gives you information about a crowdfunding tool. It's going to take you 4 minutes to read it, but you have to click here to read it. Okay, so this is actually email marketing. They're not trying to get me to sign up. We're not on growing our list. This is content, okay? So we've switched gears now to trying to sell stuff. Okay. So in this sense, all of these examples that I'm trying to show you right now, you're bringing them to the website or to a landing page or something to sell you something, a service or a product. So here, if I click on this, they're going to try to sell me whatever it is. And so we've had like answered questions, a tip sheet. We've had an ebook. This is what I call a teaser. And here's another good one, a resource, which is also a teaser. Here's Emma. They do a really good job with, this is an email service provider. I didn't put them up because they're really expensive, but they do a great job. 7 effective call to action examples, and see the examples. So you have to go to their page. So all of these emails that we've seen so far, there's not much there, right? There's not a lot of content. There's a little bit. There's an image, There's a little bit, and there's a button, and they bring you to the website. So they want to get you to the website. That's where everything is. You don't want to put tons and tons of stuff in your email. If you have tons and tons of stuff, send tons and tons of emails. Break them down into little pieces.
So if you clicked on that,
Yeah.
do you have to buy something?
No, well, this is a service. Here, I click on it. You can see. This is a service, an email service provider. They want you, for some reason, my resolution here is bad and you're not seeing the whole thing. They want you to be a customer of theirs. So that's, hold on a second. Anyhow, they're trying to get you to come to their website so you can see what an awesome email service provider they are. So and on every page they'll have a free trial to try Emma for free. So remember at the beginning we grew our list so that we have people to send stuff to, and now this is what we're sending out, what I call the content. Well, what do you want to do? You want people to buy stuff, right? So the place they do that usually is your website. So now what we're doing is we're taking those people and we're sending them to our website, and however we can get them to them. We might be sending them to a landing page on our website which has a specific product we want them to buy, or we might be sending them to something that we created for them to see, or to the home page or to an event or something like that. And one last example I want to just show you is, again, Vistaprint. They do a really good job with email marketing. Here is discounts. So these are some of the things that we, now if you look at just the contrasting colors, all the purple stuff is what's the sale stuff. It kind of is a nice visual design. Now this kind of breaks the rules that I'm going to give you. Too much stuff. But, so I wouldn't recommend all that stuff. But a lot of them do it. So here we are. Is anyone a PowerPoint expert here?
That was number 41.
Yeah, we're on 33 actually.
33.
Yeah. Okay, I'm just going to keep talking. Sorry about that, Chris. Okay. So what do we write about for our content? So we're going to turn questions into answers, and we're going to use images, and we're going to, some suggestions are tips, ebooks, locked content we call teasers, so you can't see it until you go to the page. Now, another locked content would be like selling an ebook. So that's an actual purchase, right? So you're trying to sell something. And that's through your store. What else can you write about? You can write about events. And you can write about just the things that you do in your everyday life, because people are interested in that. I mean, one of the things that we do, like with social media, when we'll have like a social media campaign, is like the flooring company again. We might have like a video of somebody logging with horses or something, and we're not logging with horses, but it's just kind of, some of the boards come to us that way. So getting the whole story element, like the tree is growing, so it's Arbor Day coming up. We want to make sure that we tell them about how important trees are to us. So just looking at the big picture and the content of what we might want to talk about. Yep, just go to right. Thank you. Sorry about that. All right, so I have here a handout, and I'm going to let you just pass it around, and each of you can get one. And if we run out, let us know. We'll make some more. But keep going. Discounts and sales. These were what I showed you the examples of. And then we'll go to the next one. Free trial. And your time, your consultation, that kind of thing. Free quote for whatever it is that you do. Next. Okay, here we go. Editorial calendar. So anytime you've got an email marketing plan, you're going to have an email marketing calendar. also called an editorial calendar. What am I going to write about? You do not want to think about this every time you need to write. And in this situation right here where we are today, it's not the most creative place to be coming up with ideas. But we'll just try to think about it a little bit. But generally, people have different ways of getting their creative. My creative ideas tend to come at 3 a.m. And so I like to have a pen and paper by the bed or something like that to jot it down so I don't have to worry that I'm going to fall asleep and forget it. But think about it. You might like to go for a walk in the woods. Really getting away from the noise and the bustle and that kind of thing is a really important way of getting your creative juices flowing. But we want to plan out at least a month in advance. I recommend a year. Now, you don't have to plan out every single thing you're going to write for a year, but subjects are good. And marketers are really famous for like looking at holidays and, oh, it's Halloween, write about that. It's kind of staid, but it works. But I like to think more about what state of mind are people in. Like this time of year, people are in the, oh, it's spring, kind of get out, spring fever kind of mindset, right? So what is somebody going to be interested in when they're ready to go outside and be gardening and that kind of thing? On the handout, you have 3 pages. One is an annual calendar, and so I just put some examples. Yours is blank, but I just put, if this was January and that was December, a few ideas for what might be the topics for that month. So what are people thinking about getting organized for New Year's? In February, there might be kind of some winter things or treating themselves some way. So here's some ideas that I just kind of threw up there for what I might do for the year. And then if you go to the next page, you've got 3 pages there. This is the second one. This is just sort of a brainstorming one. So you would have your topic from the other page being organized, and then you would just kind of, they're just an idea, getting you to think about how you might come up with these content ideas. And so if you're trying to get organized, how am I going to be organized to be able to blog? Like, oh, I've been wanting to blog for a long time, but I never can seem to figure out. So if I was to send an email that said, this is how I do it, or this is a suggestion from 8 to 9 every morning, I sit down, whether I'm going to blog or not, and I open up my blog and I start writing. And, or, whatever it is that your content is going to be, just start writing. And I always say, as an undergraduate, I was an English major, and then I went and got an MBA for grad school. But writing is a big part of email marketing. Even though I don't want you to write volumes because people won't read it, you still need to be engaging and write well. And so when you start writing, just do it. Just put stuff down. Don't edit while you're writing. Just write. And then come back and look at it and rewrite if you need to. But a lot of people have this kind of fear or writer's block, they call it. Just write stuff. It's sort of like doodling, like get it out there. And eventually something useful, even if it's just a sentence, will come out. So that's kind of my English teacher coming out here for the content. But it's really one of the hardest parts that I, as a consultant, can't help you with all that much. You know your business. I don't know your business. I can give you ideas if you tell me about your business, but you're the one who runs it every day. You're the one who knows everything about it. You're the one that really needs to do the thinking creatively about the topics. What are people going to be interested in? Because somebody from the outside, no matter who it is, it just doesn't know your business like you do. So go to the next one. So this is just an ideas thing. And then this would be 1 month. So I did May. So you only have 1 page of that. If you really wanted to use this handout, you'd want to make 11 copies of that third page there that was for the month. So this is just May. And here I decided that I was going to test maybe different days of the week, okay? So I wasn't going to send like every Monday. One week I was going to send Monday, one week I was going to send Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. That's just kind of an idea. Now, I always get this question, how often should I send an email? And it depends. It depends. What are you doing? Is it an event that you want people to come to? Is the event really soon? Like maybe you send it every other day. But if they've already signed up for the event, make sure they don't get the email because that's really annoying. So here I've spread out maybe a little bit more than a week. What's that, 8 days? Something like that. But you can send, some people will send every day, LL Bean or whatever, and that's really annoying to some people. Some people will send once a week, some people will send once a month, but I would not send less than once a month because you're not really that engaging if you're less, if you only send quarterly, an annual newsletter, like we're not really marketing here. It's okay, but you're not really nurturing anybody by sending them a quarterly newsletter. What's much better is to send little bits at a time than to wait and send a whole bunch at once.
Is there any, or maybe it's your provider, but is there a legal obligation to put an unsubscribe button?
Yes, there is. At the bottom of every email from an email service provider will be your name, your company name, your mailing address. I don't know if the phone number is required, but I think it is, and an unsubscribe button. And that's what all the email service providers will do. And the reason is there's this group called ICANN, and I forget what it stands for, International Compliance of something, for email marketing. And you need to abide by certain rules, which means you cannot buy a list of email addresses and send to them. That's not okay. People have to opt in. They have to let you know either this way or one other way. Like when you go to put those email addresses in your email service provider, you will have to check off a box that says, I am authorized to send to this person. I gave you my card, and I know you want to put me on your list, right? So, they're trusting you that you actually wanted to do that. But that's why, it's okay to put 40 email addresses on, but you won't be able to put 250 on. And sometimes you can import a list from a different service provider. It's gray and fuzzy, but did that answer your question? There's all sorts of ICANN rules, and the service providers will make sure that you follow them because they don't want their servers to go down because somebody's spamming with their service, and that's how that happens. Did I lose anyone on that?
If a customer buys my product and they have to put their email address in, not that they're signing up for a newsletter, but they put their email address in. Can I send them an email? Can I put them on my email list so they have to opt in?
I do. You can read the rules differently, but if they're your customer and they've given you their email address, I think it's fine. Yeah. There'll be some that say, well, you still need them to opt in by checking a box or something like that. But almost all websites, like a Shopify site, will have terms and agreements or a legal page. And the legal page will say, if you're a customer, you're going to get mail from us. But nobody is going to be surprised if they bought a product from you to get an email from you.
So, but if we go online, if I go on, on a website, and they put their email address on there, aren't they just offering it up? Yeah. Yeah. So I don't have to then write to them and say, would it be all right if I...
Oh, no. If they're filling out your form, you're good. Is that what you mean?
Say again?
Well, how did you get their email?
If you go on their website.
Oh.
And it says, how you can contact us. And
Harvesting them. That's what I call harvesting. No, you can't do that. Yeah. But what you could do is you can email them. It's okay to email them. Let's say there were a specific group of people that you wanted to be on your list, but they haven't interacted with you. It's okay to send them an email, but you wouldn't do it from your email service provider. You would just send them an email. And it can be like a form letter or whatever, but you would say it would be an invitation, but I would make it enticing of some sort, and ask them to sign up. So yeah, legally, you can't just go, get everybody's email address and sign them up, unless they've interacted with you in some way. Any other policy kind of questions? Those are good questions. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you don't have their permission. I mean, when you put your email address on your website, you can be pretty assured that you're going to get spam because your email address is on your website, right? And it kind of goes with the territory, but it's considered spam if you didn't interact first. So we're still talking about content. We call them campaigns. In the email service providers call them campaigns. But what I'm talking about is what's in that campaign. Like, what do we talk about? So we want to be relevant. I talked about that before. And we've talked a little bit about what's enough. And it's sort of your own kind of gut feeling about enough. Like, there's no set, hard, fast rules. But if you think you're annoying, you probably are. But my experience is that beginner marketers, beginning people starting with email, don't annoy anybody because they don't send that many. You just won't. You won't send as many as the annoying people do. Because it's hard. It's a lot of content. It's like work, So, and then we always talked about that already. It's not always about you. It's about what you know and what you have access to, meaning what can I share with you. So mostly what you want to make sure is that you're delivering consistently creative ideas that your readers are going to want to read. And I talked a little bit about this already, about finding your creative space and giving yourself a little time with the phone turned off and maybe a pad of paper or even, a blank piece of paper. Or some people like a recording, so you can just get that recording app for your phone and just go for a walk and think of ideas or something like that. Sometimes it's nice to sit down with a friend or a coworker, close the door, and just start brainstorming ideas and things like that. And whenever you're doing this, you want to think about the customer always, okay, and what they would be thinking of, and if they were searching the internet, what they would be looking for, and you want them to find you. Your kind of keywords.
Is there a way to, any good ways to collect what's important to your customer? Collect those ideas from the customers.
Yeah, well, any email interaction that they send to you, I mean, I'm thinking of my one client who has a complicated product. She gets email all the time because her product is so complicated. So she saves all of those. So that, any emails that you're getting, any questions, any phone calls, those are all fodder. Because one person had the question, you can be pretty sure that more than one person is going to have that question. Any other way of checking? Well, there's different, you can look at what people, in your Google Analytics, which is your website statistics, you can look under the keywords that what people were searching for, how they found your site. So what words did they type in when they got to your site? And it will give you this whole long list of, the phrases that they used in the Google search. And those are always good to look at for a lot of reasons, because did they find what they were looking for? Is that on my website? Well, it probably is if Google found them for you. But also, those are good places in your analytics, the search terms and the traffic. And then also, the analytics will also show you how they got there, like where they came from. They might have come from Google, or they might have come from another site. So like we used to have, when Tubbs Snowshoes was in Stowe, we used to have them as a client, and we found that a lot of people were coming to them because there was a link on their site from Country Walkers, which was this tourism trip, a trip organizer in Waterbury, I think, and they had a link to Tubbs Snowshoes because it was nearby, and we were getting like all these referrals and things like that. So we ended up having this great relationship with Country Walkers after we looked at our analytics and saw that kind of thing. But then we're like, oh, of course, we should be not talking about our snowshoes. We should be talking about hiking Mount Mansfield. I mean, it might have been obvious, but to us it wasn't obvious at the time until we so you can see where you're getting your referrals and kind of get some ideas from the audience that is at those websites. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Separate from your own analytics, you could be using a keyword tool to check what people are searching for but not finding you, to answer those questions so that they can maybe then find you.
Right. Google offers that
too. Keyword tool, see what people are searching in your realm.
Yeah, well, so if you did like Google AdWords, there's a keyword tool, and you would just put in, coffee or whatever your product is. And it will tell you, what people are searching for coffee. And apparently it's really high caffeinated is what they're all looking for. Okay, next slide, please. So people feel most at ease with content that feels like it was written especially for them. Okay, I hate to get back in there. Do you know how to? You can do it? Okay. There's one example I really like it, and so where is it? Okay. So here we are. We're waiting for tomorrow's marketers. Save $300. Here's your code. Click here to come to our conference. Look at that, there's my name, right? And so there's all these like merge codes, like so you have first name, last name, and stuff like that. So I know how they got it, but it's still kind of cool. And if you click on this video, these guys are really sophisticated. They put me in their video, my name, like Elisa Clancy is in my, so I was like, so I had to show you that. But if you feel like it's, and I'm like, I'm not going to fall for this because I know how they did it, right? But I totally fell for it. I'm like, I should go to that conference. It's like next week in Las Vegas. It's not going to happen. But it's amazing how just even, can you get back to that PowerPoint? Yep. Okay, thank you. Even just putting their first name in either the subject line or, dear Elisa in the beginning of it, just kind of personalizing it that much. You wouldn't think it'd make a big difference, but they're like, well, this can't be all that much spam because they know who I am, So they at least got that part. But anytime you can kind of reduce the friction, and you would be surprised if somebody just said hi, or if they said, hi, Bill, but I don't know your name. It just makes a big difference. Yeah?
I don't know about other email services, but Google has one where they do some preliminary sorting into categories. So there's a general mailbox, social, subscriptions, and then there's one called promotions.
Promotions.
And is there, I don't know how they actually decide between, is there a code that you include in the mail header as
to get out of that promotion one? That's a very good question. I don't know.
Promotions kind of generally gets the short shrift,
Yeah. Google's pretty good. How many of you have Gmail? All right. So this is very relevant. They're pretty dead on. Under that inbox, that's pretty much you and you and you and you. It's like those are the people you're interacting with. Those are your regular emails. And then in the promotion tab are these. They're pretty good at it. So I don't know. They're probably, if it's coming from MailChimp, they put it in promotion. That's no. They know the server. All they have to look at is the email server where it's coming from. It's no secret that it's coming from Constant Contact. So I don't know if there's any way around that. Yeah. I mean, you could have your own mail servers. You could probably do that. You probably don't need an email service provider, but all of the rest of us do. See what I'm saying? Like if you're really technical, Green Mountain Tech has their own email service. So you could get around it that way. But another question?
Sometimes they say, make sure you put us in your inbox or something like that.
Oh, your contact list.
Add us to your, would that handle that? Get you out of the promotions tab?
If they were in your contact list. Yeah, well, no, like John Mandeville does a very good job with Constant Contact. In fact, he just got an award for one of the top Constant Contact users. And he's been doing it for a long time. And I think one of the reasons is because it says john@lamoilleeconomy.org. Like it's going right from his mailbox to your mailbox. So we were talking earlier at the break. I've got a web address on there, webmaster@3W Promotions. That's a real spammy. But I also have one, Elisa Clancy @Gmail, not so spammy, right? So there's some email addresses that come across as very generic. Info at your domain name, sales at your domain name, webmaster at your domain name. Those are almost always kind of put in the general, this isn't a person category. And if you're going to use your name, that's almost always going to somebody who's going to read it. And so I think that does help, having a specific email that's not generic. Does that help? Or did I not answer it?
Well, that's interesting information. So my email is Janice@VermontMailChips.
Yep, that's great. I think that
better than info@VermontMailChips.
I would recommend, yes, Janice @ Yep. Now the problem is you're okay because you own the business, but if you've got Mark at Vermont Plank Flooring and then Mark leaves, then I'm constantly doing that. I'm like, all right, and now it's Tom, and now it's and so you're forwarding email all around. But it's still, I think, deliverability is a big help for. Okay, next slide. And we already talked about this. 74% of online consumers get frustrated with websites when content appears that has nothing to do with their interests. And if you're sending them somewhere. But I would say even in addition to this, buy my product when I already bought that product, or contribute to my campaign when I just contributed, and like not recognizing the interaction that you have with somebody. And an event would be a very good example of that. So let's say you've got a workshop coming up, and everybody does it, so I'm just going to say it. So we've got a big general list that we send, this workshop's coming up. Next week, that workshop's still coming up. We just send to everybody, and so then you'll be like, but I already registered. Why did they send me this? And then you've got to deal with, didn't you get my registration and stuff like that. So a much better way of handling that is to integrate it with your sales, and you're taking people off of that list that have signed up already. It's a nice thing to do. Does it happen? Not all the time. All right, so I put this up here because we're talking about the content, remember, still. We're still on what do we send people. And here is just an image of what a smartphone might look like when you're looking at your email. So number one priority for opening an email is it's from somebody I know. okay? So the first thing there is the person's name, right? If it says John Mandeville, I'm going to open it, right? Because I know that person. And then right below that is the subject line. And then right below that is what they call the pre-header. And if you haven't written a pre-header, then it's just going to be the first sentence in your email. So you don't even have to open a lot of these emails. If you've written it well, their subject line and the pre-header, if you've written all you need to know in those 2 lines, they might not even need to open the email. So here, Brian wants him to send yesterday's documents. Now, you don't need to say it again there, but this was not a pre-header. This is just a regular old email. Did you have fun on your trip? That was the subject line. So just by knowing what it looks like when somebody gets it helps a lot in terms of deciding what to say. You never want to repeat in your pre-header what you said in your subject line because you're wasting all that space. You want to say something different. And then they don't all look the same. Like on mine, I actually have a good paragraph on each. So, people have it set up differently, but I can actually read the first paragraph on everything. So I really don't have to open like hardly anything.
So, but isn't the point that you want people to open your email?
Yeah, but you
not
can't
just
control.
sift through them.
Yeah, but you can't control what they're looking at. But yeah, you want them to open it, but at the same time, they might not, and you want that branding to come through. So yeah, you would like it to. We're going to talk about subject lines in a minute, but you want this part to be written precisely. Yeah. Yeah, well, it'll probably say your business name there. You would do both, maybe. It depends on your business. I mean, if it's a massage, you probably put your name in there with the company name. If it's a business with a lot of different people, it would probably just be the business name. It's okay. Yes?
Okay, so you're talking about the subject line and the pre-header. Where does the pre-header information come from? Is that like the first line of the text in your email? Because we use vertical response for the chamber, and I've never seen like a separate box for pre-header. We just have subject line, and then you put in all the information you want in your
Who do you use?
Vertical response.
Who's your email service provider?
Oh, we have our own.
Oh, you have your own.
But we use vertical response to.
Oh, vertical response. Okay.
Which are, yeah.
Well, so it depends when you're building your email. Okay, one of the things that we won't really have time for in this short workshop is to actually get into any of the email service providers and show you like the nuts and bolts of, actually dragging the things around, because we just can't do that. But generally what they'll have is they'll have a template when you want to build your campaign. You start with a blank template and then you kind of change things. And a lot of times they'll have like modules that you can pull in, like an image, drag it in there, or a block of text, drag it in there. And the very top one, the very first one, it's usually in smaller font, and it will often say, view this in a web browser. Yes, that is the pre-header, view in a web browser. So just before that, on the left-hand side of view in the web browser is where you would put your pre-header. Yeah. I could look at it for you, but they're all different. Everybody's different. But a lot of times what they'll have dummy text there, and it will say, this is a teaser. Sometimes they'll call it a teaser. The technical term is pre-header. And it's little font, and it's meant for like if you wanted to view the email on a web browser instead of on your phone. All of the service providers will host your email on their web server so that you can just go there and see it. So mobile should be your number one priority. It should look good at least. Have your phone right there. So that you know what it looks like, and make sure you test it so you can see. Okay, so right now we're going to go through some examples of some design, And my kind of rule of thumb, things have changed a lot, but in 2016, less is more. So we are talking about not a lot. We're going to use between 1 to 3 photos, generally 1. We're going to have about 20 lines of text or less. And we're going to have a link that's either like a call to action button or a link, which is the same thing as the call to action button. And we're going to make sure we're mobile friendly. So 80% of people are just scanning your email. They're not actually reading the words, okay? So you have to capture the big idea of what it is that you're doing with an image. Is there one more? Okay. So the key action being, we've talked about call to action, the button of whatever it is that you want them to do. Buy my product now. You want that, what we call above the fold, like so on a newspaper, it was up here. In an email, it's up top somewhere. Download now, visit now. Okay, next page. So here's 2 examples, okay, of less is more. Just remember what I said. You were just scanning, right? You can't even see that, so you couldn't possibly read it. But the left-hand side is an Amazon email, and the right-hand side is somebody else. I don't even remember. But, I mean, it's not like they didn't say it a lot. Donate $10 here, donate $3. They have lots of links, and they really explain themselves very well. But I'm kind of lazy, and I don't even know what it's about. But by just looking at that, I know that that's probably some kind of speaker that I'm supposed to listen to. And I didn't even do anything. I didn't even read any of that, really. I just read the button, and I saw the picture. And so that's about how big you want an effective email to be. Now, this is definitely going to be broken. These rules are not hard and fast. But at the top, you want some kind of branding, okay, your logo. Then you need an image of some sort, a little text, and a call to action. So go to the next where you have a few of these examples. Okay, same thing. Left-hand side, yes. Right-hand side, no. Checks unlimited. I actually know these people. I mean, that's why they send me email. So I buy my checks from them. But I don't really know what I'm supposed to do here. I mean, I know that there's some kind of Christmas thing going on. But, I don't know. What am I supposed to do? I'm probably supposed to, buy something, but I'm not really sure. Just on a really cursory. This is how much time people spend on your email. None. Over here, I think I'm supposed to buy a doormat. So it says shop now, buy this doormat. I'm sorry to dumb down things, but we are to the point where this is life these days. And so you've got the branding up top, and their pre-headers, unfortunately, we can't read it. It says trouble viewing, view the email on a something, and the other one right above it, the trouble viewing, it says something.
How often do people have trouble viewing? You know what I mean? In other words, is it worthwhile to use that valuable real estate at the top? Do you even have that in the first place?
It's kind of
like most technology pretty much is going to read this no matter what.
Yeah. I'm not sure why it's there. It's always there. I think it's because they host the page always. But some people used to. I mean, I think cell phones have gotten better, but before 3G cellular technology, it was almost impossible to send emails like this because people had their images shut off on their phones. It's really just in the last year or two so that maybe that pre-header thing hasn't really caught up with the cellular technology. But my point being that whatever it says above there, that's the pre-header. That thing, can you read what it says? No. Oh no, it's really tiny. Anyhow, but that's what shows up in your phone. So next, there's one more example. So here again, left is yes, right is no. Here's Greenpeace, right? And if you read down here, they want you to give today. After you do, and it's not like Greenpeace doesn't know what they're doing. I mean, they do lots of marketing, and they've got years and years of experience, and you might actually read that. But what I'm suggesting is that you won't, or most of you won't. But you will see, you won't even really know what that's about. There's some, I don't know, there's some deadline. That's all I really know about that. Over here, I know that Travelocity is having New Year's Eve deals. And I didn't even look at it for 3 seconds. Yeah.
Are you saying every email should be HTML? And that we shouldn't think that people have images turned off? I assume there's some people that still do.
Yeah.
And at times, it looking like just a short text email from a friend would actually get the point.
Very good question.
Well, I was going to say that's exactly what happens to us when we send our newsletters and things. We get people say, oh, we can't see anything, and they have to click on that.
They have to click on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they're whatever email they use.
Right. I mean, we're in Vermont, so not everybody gets great cell service. And, you know, a lot of people look on their desktop, too, which is different. But to answer your question, so Jim Cochran, if you remember Silent Jim's squeeze page, he likes to recommend just a short, quick note like it's from a friend. It's, you know, and he signs it Jim. It's just a short little, it's not long, though. It's an email like I would be emailing Jeff. Dear Jeff, thought you might like this. There's still going to be a link. You still want them to go to the website, right? A little link. Thought you might like this. Skip. Well, you might skip the pre-header. No, for not something like that. So make it look like it's me talking to you. And it always should be me talking to you. I mean, you should always think about your content as one person reading it, because it always is one person reading it.
So when you include HTML or pictures or whatever in your email, is it sorted as spam easier than if it were just a text email?
I think it has more to do with the mail server that it's coming from. If it's coming from MailChimp, I don't think it matters if it's text or image. But to get back to the question, so really good, one of the things we're going to talk about next is testing. Okay, so you could do that. You could do one that had one picture and a little text, and you could do one that had none, and you could do that, all month, and say, okay, well, I sent these text ones and I sent these image ones, but web sticker, I mean, you need images.
Well, we found though that just doing quick notes has higher open rates and sometimes works better.
And then you can look, and so you look at your open rates, and you also look at your click-through rates. Yeah.
So this is focusing on mobile. If it looks good on mobile, will it look good on your desktop?
It will. It'll look small, but I mean, it won't look tiny, but it won't fill up the screen, but it'll look good. Let's keep going. I don't want to. We have 45 minutes. We'll be okay. Okay, so I've talked a lot about call to action, and I love this picture. So choose an image of people looking in the direction of your call to action. So you see their eyes are looking at that button, even though that button wasn't there when we took the picture. But the human eye will follow the direction that their eyes are looking. So I don't know if you remember, Silent Jim was like pointing, anybody pointing or looking, but I just love that picture. I had to include it. Next one. So colors, if things that are contrasting, buttons, people love to click buttons. So if it looks like anything that looks like a button, they love to click them. Keep going. All right, so there's a little tidbit. Our finger's about 46 pixels, in case you wanted to know that. Keep going. Am I losing anybody? So you want to make sure, if you want something to touch something, you can't have it a little teeny, okay? All right, so video is like the new thing, right? I mean, it's not new, but it's new in email. And the thing is you don't actually send a video in your email. It would never get delivered. It's way too big. What you would do is you would send an image of the video, and when you click on it, it goes to a website that hosts the video. So I just wanted to share that with you. Now, there is there are a few examples, and I don't want to go in and out of that anymore, but you do have a choice. So there's an image called an animated GIF, which is basically like a short little movie. And as long as the file size is like under 100K, if it's small enough, you could do it with like an animated GIF. But generally, if you want to use a video, like in that marketing event that had my name from Las Vegas in it, that was, you had the little triangle button because it was a video. When you click on it, it actually goes to their website and plays the video. And so I just wanted to include that in here because people love watching videos, and adding video to your email campaign can increase click-through rates 300%. I'm telling you, the rate of mobile phones going up is going like this, and the rate of videos on everything is even steeper, 300%.
You'd want to make sure that the video is being watched at your site, though, not,
Yeah, you want to embed it.
YouTube doesn't.
Oh, I maybe didn't explain that. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, you don't necessarily want, I'm sorry. Thank you, Jeff. So even on your website, it will slow down your page by having video on your page. So generally, you're hosting your video on Vimeo or YouTube, and you're just linking. On your website, you're actually embedding it. But my point was never send a video in your email. Okay. So these are different things. This is a website. This is a postcard. This is an email. This is a postcard. That's a business card. And you can tell they're all from the same hotel. So the point being here is try to be consistent not only with your logo and the placement of your logo, but the colors that you use. And in this case, they kind of have this wallpaper-looking thing. So consistency throughout all of your media, it's a hard thing to do. It's harder than you'd think. All of the great brands do it. I mean, Coca-Cola, Target. If you look at any of them, they're so consistent. And they've got rules. You can't do anything for them if you don't play by the rules. But the point being, try not to say, oh, I'm going to have a blue background or I'm going to have a red background and just like change things up all the time. People will start to remember, oh, this is you. They're going to start feeling comfortable with you. Okay, so we're getting close here. So here, we've got some campaign material. Okay, we've decided that we want not a lot. Now, I gave you my preferred, short is sweet. If you look at your email box today, you'll see Land's End or whatever, and they'll scroll and scroll and scroll, and they'll be like, oh, Lisa said not to do that. And it's like, go ahead and do it, But my point being that if you have one point that you're trying to get across, do that, and then send your next point in another email. It's just, from what we're reading today in the trends of what's been successful, it's a little if you have a lot of products, and like Land's End or LL Bean, these are people who break this rule all the time, or you're a catalog and you want to kind of try to appeal. That, I think, is when you're having longer emails. But these short ones are definitely the trend. So we've got our call to action. We've got our content. This is an example of a campaign, an autoresponder campaign. So these emails that we've talked about in content so far are part of our editorial calendar and like what we're going to do all the time. What email does somebody get if they just went to our website and signed up? They're going to get like a welcome message, right? They're going to get thanks for joining our email, like an automated email. And so that will happen. All of your service providers have this kind of canned message that says thank you. You can go into that message and change it and personalize it. You could put your logo on it, put your colors on it, or whatever you want. But they're going to get that immediately. And then if you want, you can set up something else to happen. The next day, they might get this email, which was our number one email. And then 2 days later, they might get our number 2 email. Like we're just going to pick what we wanted to say in a series. And then we're going to wait 2 days, and we're going to send them this one. We're going to send one more. So this has 5 altogether. It's just an example. So those are called autoresponders, and it's generally for when somebody is signed up for your email list. It can also be triggered. You could have a new one autoresponder if somebody bought a product. And so you could have one for each product. So one of my clients sells coffee. So if somebody ordered the coffee, you could wait like 3 or 4 days so you know that they've gotten it. And then you could have an autoresponder that said, did you try it yet? Or, like with maybe a little survey. Or 4 days later, you could say, how's your supply? Would you like to be on auto ship? So you can think about it, autoresponders in various ways of, and you could even set it up for like web sticker. Maybe they ordered 1,000, and every 6 months they've been ordering 1,000. So you could set up an autoresponder for 5 months and say, how's their supply of your bumper stickers? Are they getting low? Is it time to order so you don't run out? And so it doesn't have to be 2 days. It could be 6 months. It's whatever date you want to put on it. So autoresponders are a very powerful tool. Any questions about them?
Yeah, so our products are used by several different sport niches, like swimming, triathlons, surfers, stand-up paddlers, etc. So, and we have different products. So if a surfer buys one of our products versus the other one, they're similar products in terms of benefit, but different too. Would you recommend that autoresponder, that welcome campaign to new customers be not only product specific, I heard you say something about product specific, but also like sport specific, really?
Right, so for yours, if you had like swimming, biking, running, let's say, type, and some people do all of them, but some just swim. I might segment my list and say, this is a swimmer. And you can ask them, you might not ask them that right away, but you can ask them that like in a subsequent. But if you know that they're a swimmer, you could segment it so that you knew you were selling to swimmers. And then you could maybe try to upsell them on something swimming related, or just let them know that, hey, we also do bikes. Am I answering your question?
Well, sort of, but where I'm going with it is like more using that new customer autoresponder series to continue to build trust and relationship with them. And to me, intuitively, it makes sense to speak directly to them in terms of their needs, their sport niche needs.
Right, because you knew what they bought. Yeah, that's what I meant in terms of it could be product specific. So anytime somebody bought a paddle, you could send an autorespond for a board, right? Like if it's a related product. Absolutely. I mean, we usually try to do that before they even buy the paddle. We try to sell them the board, upsell them right there in the cart. But assuming that they didn't buy it, I mean, that's where it gets complicated and where the advanced automated systems really have to interact well with your e-commerce cart. If you're trying to do specific product things, and it can do that. It can totally, you can write rules, just like if you've ever used email rules, whenever I get an email from this person, put it in this box. There's all sorts of rules. You can write rules for marketing automation. And there's, if you're doing e-commerce and you want to be really serious about presenting really specialized material, I highly recommend marketing automation. And it's beyond the scope of this beginner's class.
I was going to say that very often you can say if a person is interested in stand-up paddleboards, is probably going to be interested in a couple of other sports. But the one way to do it is to offer pamphlets or tips that they could opt into for those other things. Opt into backcountry skiing, or opt into
Oh, different
Some
lists.
tips, general tips, and then you segmented it into that market as well.
Yeah, email's a great way to do surveys too. People don't mind filling out surveys a lot of times, especially if they're really short. You know, what other interests do you have, that kind of thing.
So the degree of complication, is that you're better servers for?
Yeah, well, it sort of depends. It can be kind of whatever you want it to be. But in particular, you know, some of the things that annoy people are sending them irrelevant material, or sending them material when they've already interacted with you. Those are the big ones that really upset people, or they might even cause them to call you. You know, so anything, that's a good place to start. You don't want to upset anyone. Remember, you're sending to all of your customers. Okay, so you don't want to upset them.
No, but I'm asking, the server that you get, say, Chimp,
Yeah.
MailChimp, or Emma, or is one better than another for?
Oh, for marketing automation. If you have an e-commerce store, I would start with your e-commerce because some of them have already set that up, and then ones that haven't, or that that you set it up, will work with some providers and not others. So if you do e-commerce, I would look at doing email marketing through your store to start with, and then you can also do it outside of the store, but in terms of sales and that kind of thing. Can you go next? Yeah.
When you first select the email address, wouldn't it be a good idea to kind of try and segment what their interests are at that point? Like for you, like you could send, would you like information on biking? Would you like information on swimming and different ones, and they just check a box?
Yeah.
Sales.
Generally, the feeling is it's so hard to get people to part with their email that you want to make it as easy as possible. But it certainly is a good place for the autoresponder. So in one of your series, even in the thank you or the welcome message, and that's where we're talking about right here, I call them transactional messages. And I don't know if you could read this. Now, this is not branded, okay? It's not. There's nothing going. But I'll read this. These are kind of boring things that are already set up in your email service provider. That will, you'll get the boring welcome message, the boring thank you message, the boring shipping confirmation message. But you can go in and change all of those. And I recommend doing that, putting your logo in, putting your colors in. In this case, they didn't put the logo and the colors, but they wrote this awesome thing that said, your CD has been gently taken from our CD baby shelves with sterilized, contamination-free gloves and placed into a satin pillow, and a team of 50 employees inspected your CD and polished it to make sure. Okay, so I'm not going to read the whole thing, but you get the idea. Like, it's funny, right? So they're being cute, and they're adding some personality. And so who adds personality? I mean, email service providers, boring. They put a little chimp, right? He gives you high fives. He pushes buttons. They're trying to add a little personality. Geico has their little, gecko guy. Because insurance is boring, right? Well, these emails are boring. So, some of them I've gotten some that said, I know I'm just an automated robot, but we still wanted you to know that a human will be looking at this, or something like that. So, make fun of it or don't, but one way or another, do try to get a little bit of personality, even if it's just your branding. Okay, so put your branding in there, your colors, your font, your logo, that kind of thing, add that. So this is an example of somebody who kind of got there. They did this kind of cool thing, but then they didn't quite get it there because they didn't have the logo and stuff. But all of them have these transactional messages, and I recommend spending some time with them.
It says at the top, most successful email I ever wrote. So what's the story behind that email? Did he report to you, or how did you find out?
Oh gosh, gee, I don't know where I found that.
In other words, what did it do for his business? Why was it so successful besides?
Because it got shared and everybody talked about CD Baby, and people thought it was funny, and I don't know. I'm not sure where I got it. Can we go to the next one? Oh, here's okay, so snuggle up with our blog. You know, here's like, you know, the puppy wants you to do stuff. It doesn't take much to add a little personality, but it is a creative process. You know, this is the type of thing that you could hire somebody to do. You know, create a personality for you. This is the stuff that that marketers love to do. But it's also, it has to be kind of who you are. I mean, Ben and Jerry's were very successful, right? They had their little hand-printed font that was always theirs, and they had their cows. And you can just name the companies that do it well and that don't do it at all. And I'm not suggesting that you have to be cute or you have to be funny, but I just wanted to point out that it adds an element to your interactions, okay? So, okay, this was one of those examples. Hi, Lisa, thanks for reaching out to Garage Sale. I hope you're having a lovely day. I'm just a humble robot, but I wanted to personally assure you that we received your message and a good old-fashioned human being will be along very soon to get back to you. Okay. So we talked a little bit about workflow automation, and we're not going to go too far into it other than what we've said already. It's that if you've ever been annoyed by a company that's trying to sell you something you already purchased, you'll understand the value of it, and your messages can be tailored to specific segments of your list. Did we talk enough about segmentating your list that you understand what I mean by that? You have different, you have one big list, and then you have different aspects of that list, and you might not always want to send to the entire list. Yeah.
I find it a little confusing. So if I have one large list of customers and I send out promotion to everyone, and then I get responses, I get bookings from people. Now it's mid-month, I want to remind people about the promotion, but I don't maybe want to remind people it's not available to people who already took advantage of it. Mm-hmm. How does that original list get pared down?
Right, so you would, I mean, you could do it manually, or you could do it automatically.
So I'd have to create a new list by going through, here's who I have appointments from, these people I need to take off the original list and create a new list.
Right, I mean, if it was small, like, you know, for the workshops and we really cared, we could go and just manually remove the people that signed up from that particular send, just from that send. You know, so maybe it's only like 10 people I need to take off the list. So I could just go take them off. And, you know, and it might not be a big deal to some people, but I just know that, like, sometimes we've gotten phone calls, you know, for somebody, especially if you're asking them to buy something and they've already bought it. Oh, well, and it hasn't arrived yet, maybe. Those are just some examples. Yeah.
I'd just like to make a point, because I've been involved with lots of customers and made lots of money trying to help them with this.
Okay.
Have a master customer record, and then use flags to say this person's interested in cycling, this person's interested in hiking, this person's interested in swimming. Do not have multiple lists of people for different interests. And the other problem is people will, when you have them sign up, they might sign up as Jim Smith. They might sign up as James E. Smith. They might sign up as James Smith. They're all one person. You don't want to be sending them three different, you know, so you've got to really put a lot of effort into deduplication.
Well, they won't let the same email address be subscribed to the same list. So it will dedupe. Use multiple email addresses, then you're good. Oh, yes. And it also, since you're paying by the subscriber, you don't want to send three. Yes, Jeff?
Just on the segmenting or flagging or, I mean, in Constant Contact, which we use, you could take your whole list of bounces, none of these people opened it, and just resend the same exact email just to them. So from your master list, you can filter down
Yeah.
based on some of your stats from mailing.
Constant Contact is good with that. So some of them segment in different ways, but like, what's your name? Dennis. Like Dennis said, you can put the same person on more than one segment, right? So they could be on 3 different segments. There's different ways of massaging it, but yeah.
Yeah, so in vertical response, you have your master list, and then when you open up a single contact, you then can create a different mailing list. So say for you, I don't know, this person does only massages or this person does only whatever. You create a different list for that, and you just tick the box. So it adds them to that list, but they're still in your master list.
Yeah.
So you don't end up with duplicates, you just have different.
Yeah, most of them work like that. Eye contact is different, but MailChimp and Constant Contact work that way. And I think it's a little easier because, like I said, you might have something that you just want to send to one segment. You know, generally you're sending to the whole group, but you might have a reason to just send to a segment. And
well, and also we have different membership year to year.
Yeah.
Some people don't renew, some people
Yeah.
have, were 2 years ago and then took a year off and then came back. So we actually do ours by year as well, and then we have a newsletter list.
Yep.
So, you're not actually marketing to everybody on your master list because that's everybody over the past 5 years or whatever.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. You know, especially you don't want to, I mean, that's a really good example. Somebody is a paid member, they don't want the membership, sign up for a membership email. They just don't want it. It bothers them. And that's the kind of thing that will make people upset. Okay, so a bounce is an email that's not delivered. And so when you're and that's actually, if you keep going, getting the email opened. Okay, it's actually not this, but the tracking aspect of it is, it's the emails that weren't delivered are bounces. And so you can look at all of your bounces and you can unbounce them, which means send them again. Or it could just be a temporary thing, or it could be a bad email address. It's usually a bad email address. Delete. So we have 20 minutes left, so I want to make sure we end on time. 4 reasons an email is open. So we already talked about this. They recognize the sender, like it's from somebody they know or a business they know. The subject is compelling. The timing was right, or a friend sent it to them. And that's a really big one. So the subject line we had talked about a little bit. So most phones will cut off after about 32 characters, in case any of you were interested in how long that might be. And here's some examples of just some subject lines. So you can use special characters, although sometimes it looks spammy. And you can see kind of where, this is actually on a desktop, so this is more than 32 characters. And we already talked about how different mail readers will display different things. Some will display the person's name and different aspects of it. The next one. So you want the subject line to be captivating, short, and to draw them in. Okay, next. Here, I'm going to send you these slides because I got all your email addresses, right? Actually, I don't know if I got any of your email addresses. But no, we have them, right? We have their email address, yeah. These are just, I got it from a website. These are some power words that you can use. I told you that everybody likes free. This was done by some kind of research. They researched thousands and thousands of opens, and that's how they got this list. So we can kind of blow by that because I'll send it to you in your email. But you can use that when you're brainstorming and just kind of pick out some of those words. So tracking results is where I thought I was headed. Looking at the analytics, you want to know what matters and what doesn't matter. So we'll go to the next one. So open rates means you can look at your email service provider. They'll tell you not only how many emails were opened, but who opened them. And did they click through? Like, you've got your call to action button. Did they click on that? Did they share it with a friend? And you can set it up, if it's especially in e-commerce, did it actually convert to a sale? You're not going to get that conversion if it's just kind of a service or that kind of thing. So testing would be just what Jeff and I were talking about. You might have one email that has an image and one that doesn't, or one that has the call to action button at the top and one that has it below the image. And you might send half of the emails, one email to half of the list and the other email to another part of the list. And once you've done it a bunch of times, you might say, Jeff said, yeah, but we've just found that we don't need an image. You know, we found, but then you might want to test it again, you know, mix things up a little bit. And then the subject line you could test, like one could have one subject line and another could have another subject line. But this is especially useful with your autoresponders, something that you're going to send all the time, your welcome messages, not so much the first one, but all those subsequent ones that come afterwards. Or if you had like an ebook, you know, your ebook's not going away. You're going to send this ebook message out all the time. So you might want to know what's the most effective email for sending my ebook pitch out. And so here's our action steps. We're going to choose our email service provider. We're going to put our sign-up form on our website, and we're going to sign up at least, you know, start with 5 people. Start with however many are in your cup there. Just start with your list and start growing your list. We're going to plan our editorial calendar, and we're going to make time for it on our schedule. I mean, that's one of the big things. Everybody says, oh, I'm going to do more social media marketing this year. It's going to be part of our marketing plan. But it has to be in the schedule. And the nice thing about email is that you can actually write a whole month worth of emails. So you could write the first week, second week, third week, fourth week of the month, write them all at once, and schedule them for when they're going to be sent out. So it could just be one morning a month when you actually did this, or it might take you a whole day at first. But you could just say, okay, this is the day that I'm going to do it. Now, I have a friend who's a professional email marketer. That's all he does is email marketing. And he does his on the 10th of every month. And if that's a Sunday, it's the 9th or whatever. But he is very consistent, and you know that it's all going to happen on the 10th. So setting deadlines is a really good way of making that happen. And then you can make sure you look at your statistics, especially the bounces, the ones that aren't working. Get rid of them. If those email addresses are bad, just delete them. You don't want to pay for them. They're counted on your subscriber count. You can even look at, I was telling somebody who, he only had 40 people on his email list. And I said, you can look and see who opened your email. It'll even tell you, like, Harry opened your email 11 times. I'm like, call Harry. You know, like you can, there's a lot you can know about an email service provider. And I said, Harry wants to go on a fishing trip. He just hasn't called you. So there's still more. So here, this is just a little successful thing. It's going to take a little while for you to get used to it. You're going to get experienced. You're going to be successful. You just need to work at it a little bit more. Keep going. Okay, so there's one more slide. So this is just how to get a hold of us and some of the things that we do. But I wanted to make sure that we had a little bit of time for questions. And was there any part that kind of seemed fuzzy, like that I glazed over too quickly? The automation is very complicated.
The automation,
yeah. Generally, if you're doing e-commerce, automation is handled through your cart. So, do you do e-commerce?
Yeah. And how much?
What kind of e-commerce is it? Who do you have, or what do you use? Well, what's your e-commerce cart? It's Shopify. Okay, so Shopify. But it would integrate with a service provider if you wanted it to. Oh, yeah, that's okay. Right, because they're not part of e-commerce. That's why I said, is it e-commerce or not e-commerce? Because Shopify, or, you know, who has a e-commerce cart that's different than Shopify? What's yours? WooCommerce. 3D cart. Okay. All of them will integrate with MailChimp, Constant Contact, that kind of thing. So, you know, if you're worried about the upsell and all that kind of thing with the selling part. For if you're not going through e-commerce, like, so it's more of a service or just an off e-commerce where there's not an actual sale happening. It's more of a quote or a lead or, you know, a wholesale account, that kind of thing. You can handle that yourself, or you can do it within MailChimp or within Aweber, or like all of them. In the email service provider, you can set rules. So it depends on, you know, what you want to do, but the automation is really advanced stuff. So I'd be happy to talk to you about it, but I just wanted you to know that it was out there and that it is kind of the next level of email marketing. Generally, the stuff we were talking about today is going to go out to, you know, your whole list or a segment of your list, but just so that you know that there are different ways of handling what emails do go in and out. Does that make sense? Yeah.
I'm a believer in the law of large numbers, so the bigger the email list, the better the opportunity to sell. So do you have any thoughts about how you would go from 5 to 40 to 100, then to 1,000 or 10,000?
Advertising. Your advertising, you know, should more than pay for itself. So AdWords is a great way online, especially if you're going outside of your local market. You can do AdWords and you can do Bing. Bing has online advertising. That's the first place I would start because it's such niche marketing. And you would drive them to a squeeze page. That's what I would do for growing your list. And try different kinds of formats like ebooks and tips and different, you know, lists, all sorts of different formats until you found one that converted well. Does that answer your question? Yep. Yeah. There's more than just online advertising, but I would start with Bing and Google.
Right. Yeah, we can talk about that again.
Okay. And I will stick around for more one-on-one questions if you want. I think that's it. Wait, one more. Okay.
You talked about frequency of doing mailings.
Yeah.
There must be some, I know everybody would be different, but some stats on there becoming a time too frequent where unsubscribes start to rise or unopens rates change.
Yeah, I don't have the stats in my head, but I know that you know, you can certainly Google that, and your service provider, you can also ask that. I've looked at it before, and there aren't any like definitive answers. That's why I said it was kind of in your gut, because if you start seeing your open rates go down, there could be lots of reasons for it. Right. You know, your content could be bad, your frequency could be too many, and so you kind of have to analyze, you know, what the different formats are. Generally, with an autoresponder, what you want to do is spread it out at least a few days apart between them, you know, depending on what you were delivering. But in terms of just regular sending frequency of your regular campaigns, you know, I would start with weekly.
But to some businesses, including ours, I'd say that we'd be bothering people because there just isn't enough great content to.
You'd be bothering.
And everybody's getting a lot of email.
Okay, then if you, that's what I meant. It's kind of a gut thing. Maybe every other week. I wouldn't do less than once a month. It's just not enough. If you think about it, people like delete things really quickly. So don't feel like you're bothering your customers. I really wouldn't. As long as you're giving them new content each time, you're not really bothering them. I mean, if you send them the same email every week, that would be kind of bothersome. You know what I mean? Like, maybe you can't think of new things to send, but I don't know. I think if you really try and you get in that kind of creative space, that's why I say do them all at once. You know, do a whole month's worth in a day where you're kind of in the mode and you're already geared up for it. Or do a couple weeks at least. Because it's hard to kind of get back into that space in your head, I think. Well, I will try to get those slides out in email to all of you by the end of today, so that they're fresh in your mind. And thank you for having me.
Thank you. Okay. You all have evaluation forms that Charlie handed out to you when you came to the door. That you have to fill it out and give it to Charlie to get out the door. That's your hall pass. So please do fill them out. We are always looking for new ideas, new subjects to cover with these workshops. If any of you have any ideas for a prospective workshop you'd like to have us do, if you could please write that on the back of that piece of paper, it would be very helpful.